You know how we've talked in the past about how it's really interesting. You can tell that at one point all the continents were connected, right? By seeing some of the fish that we have here that are very similar. Yeah, they're very like a northern pike. There's pike in Ireland. You know, there's huge pike in Ireland. They look just very similar to the pike we have here. You know,
right?
Or walleye. Look, they're big walleye in Europe, but they're actually zander, and they're a little different, you know, but they look like a walleye. A zander looks like a walleye, but it's from Europe. Well, there's yellow perch there, too. Okay, have you seen the yellow perch in Europe? How big they get? Okay, so everything's like Jurassic Park in Europe, though. Like, everything's outsized when it goes to Europe.
Right.
And so it's the same, and again, this isn't a yellow perch, but you can see that this is the fish when yellow. What am I trying to say here, Pete? This is a fish. I'm gonna bring it up right now. This is a fish that has ancestry. Ancestry is not the right word. It has a evolutionary history that's related to yellow perch. Like they branched off at some point.
Right, they cross paths.
Yeah, they were one species most likely at one point, and then the continents broke apart, and then they became subspecies, or whatever. But you can tell, like in this picture I've got up, and there's some perspective work in here too. So you got to keep that in mind. This picture, there's some camera trickery here going on, but this is supposedly a 6-pound. And I got to bring it's this one here. This is supposedly a 6.7 pound perch right here that I bring. Do you see that now? On the Target Walleye newsletter?
No. Let me take a look.
The email? So it's not ice or walleye related. This is from Target Walleye. It's not ice or walleye related, but whoa, from Daniel's Fishing Experience, at Daniel's Fishing Experience, who said it completely inhaled his 9-centimeter Weston shad tees. European. It's actually from the Netherlands. This came from, of course. So I just think it's wild that, how there's similarities between the species, like a yellow perch and then this European perch. You could tell that they were all one species at one point when the continents were connected, I guess is my point. And they get huge. Like this is supposedly a 6.7 pound yellow perch, essentially.
That's weird. I don't see it on their front page right now, but
yeah, it's and again, there's some camera trickery here, but it's pretty impressive.
It's weird that I've never even heard of that before. Like Infishman usually does a pretty good job covering the world and that kind of stuff, but it's usually the pike or the zander that are coming up first.
Yeah. So I think it's super interesting how that how those fish in Europe are they're just tweaked a little bit,
Yeah, it tells a big story.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be fishing in Europe, too, and I didn't get to because of COVID. I'm supposed to be...
Were you really?
Yeah, I was floating down the Danube. I was going to try and get to one of those farms where they're always breaking carp records because they plant them and feed them. You know what I'm talking about? Like Eastern Europe.
Right. Like a farm.
I was sniffing around like where I could get to one, just to spend the day on the shoreline. But yeah, it is like I find that stuff fascinating. Like how, it's so obvious that those DNA paths sort of have crossed at some point, and then just made their way across the ocean, stayed landlocked.
Yeah.
Like it's all sitting right there for you to look at. It's a fascinating story.
Yeah,
but it seems like Europe just kind of gets forgotten here because it's so far away. But that's pretty amazing stuff because those zander are huge. Did you hear about the zander? I think maybe at some point we talked about this. The zander that were showing up in North Dakota.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, like what? Where somebody got some zander and dropped it in a reservoir in North Dakota?
There's no doubt in my mind that there's guys out there that are really trying to get that fish to take hold in North America.
Yeah. But what's the process of getting it from there to here?
And for the record, we don't advocate for that.
Yeah. Did they bring like eggs back?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Like, what is the process? That's a huge. If you're keeping a bunch of zander live in an aquarium or something, what are you using to get it from Europe to here?
How do you get through? How are you getting through customs?
Yeah. Are you risking jail time to get Xander into a North Dakota reservoir? Is it that important to you?
That's pretty nuts. I hadn't even really thought about that before, how hard it must be to actually to get a fish, from another country.
They came over like the Bering Strait. They waited for the Bering Strait to freeze.
Yeah.
And then they drug it over a sled. They would cross Siberia.
Yeah. Yeah, the North Sea. They had to do it when the North Seas were calm.
Right. And they lost, it was started out with 100 men and they ended up eating each other and like one guy made it, and just kept walking until they got to South Dakota.
And thankfully, only a pair survived, but it was a pair.
He throws it into the reservoir and then he dies of exhaustion on the shore, It's probably pretty epic.
That's the story of the American Xander.
What a great film that would be.
Should do it. Maybe we make a movie or something. That's our next project. Thanks for tuning into the podcast. If you've enjoyed our content, please consider subscribing to Another Fishing Podcast on iTunes, which is available also on just about every major podcasting platform. We'd love for you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Angling Uploaded. And for exclusive benefits, become a member on Patreon. So go to patreon.com and search Angling Uploaded, become a member. Oh God, we'd love you if you do that. Thanks, guys.